Hey Frank.
Hey, Patsy, how you doing?
Oh, not too bad. How are you?
Good, good.
Good, good. Um, well, how was the weekend?
It was good. How about yours?
Well, I can't complain too much. Same old, I guess. But I don't like drama, so I'm kind of happy.
Yeah, I agree. We went out walking yesterday at Pearson. We went out again today, and it was nice. Beautiful days.
Hmm.
Um, just trying to get out and get some exercise.
It helps.
Oh yeah.
It helps.
Yep.
I don't know if it helps better in the morning or afternoon. I can't do a good workout in the afternoon. I've already done too much, ate too much, yada yada yada. But it helps release some stress. So it's kind of a toss up.
Yeah, I mean, I think that depending on when you're most able to get the best out of it is probably an important thing to consider. We went out this afternoon around 2ish, and it was so beautiful. The temperatures were great, and we went 2:15. I think we ended up starting our walk with my mom. We called her and had her meet us out at Pearson, so it was nice.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
Yep.
You will. You'll take that.
Absolutely. I'm seeing posts from my neighbor in Bovalio. He said your house is still standing, which is always good to know. It's funny. I've got neighbors there that one of my favorite neighbors is from Albania, and he helped me fix up some of the house, and he's a good handyman and good friend and everything like that. And then there's a new couple that just moved in from. They're Dutch nationals, but they live in Belgium, live and work in Belgium, and they bought the little house behind ours. So they come over quite often throughout the year, mostly in the summer. But he just sent me a message saying he's coming over. He's going to be working out of his house in Italy since he can telework. And I said, "Yeah, I'm jealous, man." He goes, "I got a bottle of wine waiting for you when you get over here."
It'd be really nice if we were allowed in the country, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
He said, "I hope this all ends soon so you can come over." I said, "You and me both, man." So
it's the truth.
yeah,
It is the truth. We got soccer games to watch, dude. We can't this shit better end pretty quick.
yeah. Yeah.
We got places to go, games to watch.
My son, Dante, he doesn't say much, but he said today when we met with my mom, he says, I want normal to come back. And I said, yeah,
Yeah.
we all do, buddy.
Yeah. Or as even as close as we can get, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, we'll take that. At this point I'll just take that. I'll take as close as we can get.
yeah. So
Um
Lou just sent a question mark, no link.
oh, I forgot to do that. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Uh
I
I
just
can't
use the one that's always on. I just pull up the old one because you can just use that. So
well that's a little beyond Lou's pay grade, I think. Besides, it's going to take him 10 minutes to get his phone oriented right. And I should have said it to him a half an hour ago.
I want to send a link to like the YouTube or Twitch or anything like that to one of my friends in Baltimore who wants to watch us, John Deniston, who's originally from Wilmington, and I can't seem to find anything.
You want the, well, let's see. I can send you the Twitch one right now.
That'd be great.
I can send you that. Then, I'll just post it up in the Discord channel.
Okay,
Okay. So you can just grab it from there.
sounds good.
I can do that. I can do the, YouTube one. I'll just post I'll just post all of them. You can grab whichever one you want.
All right, I know you've done that before, and I posted them on Twitter so that we could advertise it a little bit.
Hmm.
Here we go.
Okay. There's the Twitch one. I think Lou's coming in. Let me get him in. Yep, there he is.
Since I thought Joe Ellis was Doc Ellis's niece, she wouldn't let me in.
Dude, we're gonna talk about that later. I mean, what did I tell you? That was a hell of an effort, right? What can I tell you? Uh,
Maybe she had a book out on throwing that no hitter on acid.
hey, you know what? You never know.
Maybe she's going to coach a game on lysergic acid.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you never know.
You never know.
Hey, it was you know what? He only walked like 2 dragons. He only hit one other batter, you know.
And then Frank, he could also just get on Facebook Live and just look for the Frank and Patsy pod. Never mind. Frank is he has a client that he's talking to that I was going to call him about this time. So everybody, you guys are stuck with Lou and I here, or Lou and me, Lou and I. You guys are stuck with us for a while. Obviously, later on we are going to talk about the Jill Ellis situation real quick. For everybody who probably has no idea who she is or what's going on. If you don't have any idea who she is, she's not a pitcher's daughter.
It's not Doc Ellis's niece.
Not Doc Ellis's niece. Not by any means. No, she is not.
It wasn't the client yet, so it wasn't the witness yet. But sorry about that.
Okay. Well, that's okay. Just when we hear your phone, I'll just cut you off, and then whenever you come back, you can just wave or whatever, and I'll get you back on.
Sounds good.
It's no biggie. Guys, we got some polling to talk about, I think.
Yeah, this evokes a lot of emotion and response in all of us, so it should be fun.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't think it'll be too bad. I'll start off with the graphic here for us, so everybody can see that. Here we go. Okay. This is according to was it 438, 538?
538.
Nate Silver. 538. Nate Silver. This is updated. I want to say damn near hourly. And 538 is it's more like a poll of polls, right? So he kind of averages all the polls that. Well, I don't know if he averages all the polls. There is a block of polls that he manages, though, or that he averages, and he weights them according to the accuracy of the pollster. And there's some boogaloo going on there about how he does it. But
so just before you go away from this graphic, just so we can talk about this too when we do discuss it, what it's saying there is that basically in all the simulations he's run, which is 40,000 simulations, he's running a model, according to him, says a range of scenarios our model thinks is possible, 40,000 times to see who wins most often.
right.
And basically, it's 86 in every 100 times Biden is winning, and 13 in every 100 times Trump is winning.
Correct. Yep, that's pretty much how it is. With one time, if you notice that, there is one time where there's a tie in there.
Yeah, that accounts for that one missing piece. If you added 86 and 13, obviously you get 99. So, yeah, the one missing piece is the one tie.
And since there would be no electoral college majority, I mean, all you guys have to do is read the bottom of the graphic, right? The House will decide the election, and so that's going to go Biden's way. Unless he really, really does something to piss off Nancy. Right? And even then, it would have to be huge.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what we're getting with Nate Silver. We have one more I wanted to show everybody just to get everything. So just so people know that we're not really cherry picking anything. Okay. By the way, is my wife pissed at Ari Melber for cherry picking polls? Oh my God. Which is a shame because I really like Ari Melber. Now it's hard for me to watch him because every time I turn him on, whenever we're done, she gets all pissed off. Let me get our graphic out of the way. So here we have what is the New York Times Siena poll, rated A+ by 538. Biden with a 48 to 40% lead in Michigan and 51 to 48 in Wisconsin. It kind of goes on and on and on down the line, but basically they're kind of regurgitating the same thing, right? They're kind of showing the it seems to be a trend. Frank, by the way, Bob Les, congrats, you voted.
Yes.
All right.
You. Thanks for
Thank
sharing.
you.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And he's in he's in Texas. Bob Les is in Texas.
He's in Texas.
Yeah. That must have been quite a feat because I know there were some long lines. I mean, maybe he's not in an area with long lines, but from what I saw on Twitter, there were quite a few people reporting their wait times in Georgia and in Texas. So.
Yeah, that piece of shit governor they have closed everything down. So anyhow, Bob, Les, congratulations. We're happy. Let's face it, we're guessing who you voted for. I'm not going to say it, but let's be honest. So, fantastic. It's one more. That's one more vote we have.
Yeah, just being in the process is a big deal. So thanks.
Yep, just being a part of it. Dude, I'm telling you, I still got a feeling in my heart. I still got a feeling in my heart about Texas. I really do. Anyhow, getting back to the polls. We had in our Discord group, we had talked about it a little bit over the weekend. And Frank, you had some reservations.
I do, and then I found a couple things that kind of backed up my concerns, and one I shared to our Discord group was a Sky News piece that comes out of Australia. I don't know if you got a chance to watch that clip, but there's some indication that possibly Trump voters are not engaged in polling, that Trump voters don't either get reached by the polling people or that they just don't participate because of the fact that they don't trust institutions and that they see those polls as part of the institution, and so that there's just a large void or a lack of capturing those folks' pattern in terms of what they would be doing. So it does concern me. It's not that the numbers that are there, I don't think there's a mistake in the numbers that are there, and that's where I wasn't necessarily connecting on our Discord group, because it's hard when you're texting something or typing something to explain everything that you're thinking about in a kind of a text format. But really what I'm getting at is if you're not capturing the data completely because those people don't want to participate, then we might not be getting a real picture of what's going on. And that's my fear, is that they're just not participating in the polling process.
Does this source, Jeff, and I apologize, I did not look at it, and I do apologize for that.
That's okay.
Did they did this source happen to give you a percentage of the voting populace? Was it 5%? Was it 2%? Was it you know what I'm saying? Did they kind of tell you how they were leaning?
No, they don't. They didn't give percentages. They just said, as a general rule, this was their take on it, and it's very imprecise. And I'll admit to you that it's not scientific in any way. Without getting them to respond to anything, it's really conjecture. But it is one of those things that's they're trying to account for what happened in 2016, and I will say without reservation, I think agree with you, Patsy, that there were other factors at play in 2016, namely the Comey presser and third-party candidates that could have changed the calculus, from early October to November 7th last year, when there were almost 10-point leads for Hillary Clinton in early October that seemed to evaporate on Election Day in terms of polling versus actual results. That are not present right now, but they seem to think that some of that was attributable to the non-participation of Trump voters back then, and you may have a similar thing now. So let's say some percentage of it is this non-participation thing. I don't know how much that is. Is it going to account for 3%? Is it going to account for 8%? How much of it was the Comey memo? How much of it was third party? I mean, we know that if you took the third party out of the equation in three of the 4 states, I think Clinton wins every one of those states, meaning like Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, I believe. I think she wins all 3 of those states. The 4th one, I don't know if she would have won, but I think it's pretty clear that she would have won without those third-party candidates.
I agree. Lou, what's your take?
I just brought up a couple things just for the hell of it to see what they say, and this one came from Newsday, and it was updated today. I don't really know who Newsday is. Tom Bruns, the writer. But it says a study by pollsters found no evidence for shy Trump voters. And this is what he's saying, the reason for it. Some state polls had samples that underestimated Trump supporters, especially working class white men and women who did not go to college in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan, where Trump won by less than 80,000 votes combined, which we knew. The polls in upper Midwest and some of the states were off, and they were off primarily because there were too many college-educated whites and an insufficient number of non-college educated whites in the samples. But most pollsters have adjusted for that now, he said. That's off of, that one. Then this other one says they could be missing some, but you know what? When push comes to shove, and we've talked about this many times too, is those polls at the end were actually within the margin of error one way or the other because they were so close.
Yeah, 538 missed it by 1 point.
And actually, I'll tell you what polls didn't jive, and that's what makes you wonder, is the exit polling. Mm-hmm. So were they lying during the exit polling in a number of states?
That's a good question. There's certain things that we're never going to get answers for, right? You whenever you're asking somebody something, and you're saying, and there's no hard way to back anything up, that it's very difficult to look at their answer as saying it's etched in stone. The only way to do that is to have faith in that answer, right? So there's a little bit of trust that has to go along with that. However, if I'm taking a poll, and we're just going to keep very simple, basic math, so everybody following and listening can keep up. And that's not, that's just saying because we have a tendency to move pretty quick. If I poll 10 people and 6 of them say that they voted or are going to vote for Biden, okay? And I just made this 6 up. I don't know what the hell it is. But then, Frank, you poll 10 people, 10 different people, different state, different demographic, different whatever. And your response is 5 people said they're going to vote for Biden. And then Lou does that same thing with yet a different demographic. Maybe he polls just women, and 7 of them say they're going to vote for Biden. Well, then that kind of validates my 6, okay? Because you're saying 5, he's saying 7. So my 6, it kind of makes sense. Now, that being said, the one thing that I always say is a poll, and I don't have a whole lot of stock. I don't put a whole lot of faith in stock in polls. But the only reason I don't do that is because that was the consensus, that was the feeling, that was whatever the direction was that particular day on that particular time. That was it. That's all it is. And a lot of those people, and it could be as high as 10%, it could be as little as 0.5%, it could be a percentage of a percent, the next day may change their mind. Okay? The Comey memo is a great example. Okay? How many people who were Hillary supporters the day before the Comey presser came out switched the very next day, right? Because of the Comey presser. So a poll to me is just a snapshot. It's all it is. At this particular date, at this particular time, at this group that I did, this is what we got. The way I poll, my technique, whatever you want to call it, may be flawed, that I don't realize is flawed. I may not have a very accurate cross-section of the entire demographics that I'm dealing with. However, whenever I have other polls that are supporting my poll, that I'm very confident in my poll, there's a trend that you're starting to see. So it's not black and white, but with the background that I have, it's very difficult to take those into consideration. I like hard and fast numbers, right? I like to know that whenever I say today 2 and 2 is 4, and tomorrow, Frank, you do the same math and you get 4 when you add 2 and 2, and Lou better get 2 and 2 whenever he adds up. He gets 4 whenever he adds 2 and 2. I know my number is good, but whenever you're getting 5 and he's getting 3, and I'm sitting there with 4, all right, I know it's trending the right way, but it's not hard and fast and etched in stone, and so I'm kind of shaky about it. So that's my feeling with polls. But here's my question, Frank. The source that you had I have no reason to doubt their validity and their legitimacy. So, I don't think anybody's trying to pull anything. And, I trust your judgment that they're legit. Can we not say the same thing about the married women? Because if you go up and down my street right now,
Mm-hmm.
I promise you, most of those Trump signs that you see going up and down my street represent 1 out of 2 people in that household.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a huge gray area there that we're trying to navigate through.
Yeah. I agree. I think that there's so many unknowns that potentially could throw a wrench in all that. And I'm not going to vouch for the source. What I'm going to tell you is this: Sky News is kind of like Australia's. I don't know if they're Australia's Fox or if they're Australia's BBC.
Well, doesn't Murdoch own Sky?
I think he does. So they could be Australia's Fox.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not vouching for the source. I'm just saying, there is this thought process out there. And Lou talked about a second kind of a second wave of those people, which is the shy. I don't buy the shy Trump voter. I think of them more of the FU. I'm not going to put the finger up, but the FU Trump voter, which is like, your establishment, you're a poll, FU, I'm not responding. I don't think that many Trump voters, to me, are ashamed of, not in these days, that they're ashamed to tell you they're voting for Trump.
I agree. I completely agree with that.
They're very proud to tell you they're voting for Trump.
Yeah.
I just think they like to stick it to everybody and say, I'm not going to give you any information. But that may not be enough to overcome 10 points in this situation, because as you've pointed out, your numbers, while they are similar in terms of the percentage difference, okay, 8, 9, 10% difference, depending on which state poll you're looking at. The difference this time, instead of it being like a 48 to 39% or a 41 to 33%, you're talking about a 51 to 43%. You're talking about somebody who's getting the 50-something percent of the polling. Another thing that's a big thing that hasn't been talked about a lot lately is, and Lou, you've talked about this in the past, and Patsy, I know you've entertained it. It's the negative rating, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Trump, and this is something people talk about directly in our forum when they say that Trump has a track record. Trump's negative rating is 11.8 right now, meaning that there are more people who say he's got an unfavorable rating than a favorable rating. The percentages. The difference between those two numbers is about 11.8%. Hillary Clinton's was 12.1%, okay, after the Comey memo, I believe. So that negative number is very, very interesting, because Biden is trending in the positive. He's like a 4 or 6, somewhere in that range. The perception of Biden is more people think of him positively than negatively. And when you go into an election, if you can't have that guttural, like, I can't stand that, no way I can vote for, because that's what was going on with Hillary. They just couldn't stand her. 12 point something worse negative for her. And now you got that shoe on the other foot with Trump. That is going to be huge. And I think with those combination of factors, I think that makes me feel that Trump is in trouble. Okay. I still am reluctant to believe that we're going to cruise to victory. I'm not saying anybody here is saying that, but I think that Biden is in very good shape. One last thing I'm going to say just on this part of the topic, and I'll add anything you want me to add later, is that the betting public right now, as we sit here today, they're taking bets on the presidential election. Some bets are in. It's about 39% of the betting public that is taking Trump. Now, you have to understand, they're going to get better odds with Trump, meaning that if you put $100 down, you might stand to win 200. I don't know. I haven't looked at it yet, but you might stand to win 200 on a $100 bet with Trump, whereas you might have to put up 150 to win 100 on Biden. So people will play around with that. They don't necessarily think, oh, Trump's going to win. It's just that the odds that they get paid better would be better by betting on Trump. And what do they got to lose? If they live in England or Ireland or whatever, and they go to Bet US or Bet.uk or whatever, and they just want to throw down $100, it means nothing basically. But 39% of the betting public is betting on Trump right now.
Well, you know what? I'll be honest with you. Depending on the odds, and what the book is giving me, I might bet on him.
Yeah, I mean, what do you got to lose? You throw a few bucks down, you might win extra money, like you said. So,
Right?
I mean, we have a lot to lose, politically and socially, and we don't want that. But if you're just talking about pure bets, yeah, I mean, if I'm going to roll dice, I'm going to go to the table that's going to give me the best odds, obviously.
Right, obviously. Right?
Yeah.
Especially if you think it's either going to be close and you got a puncher's chance.
Yeah.
Or if you're convinced that he's going to win. Right?
And it doesn't matter how he wins. Listen, the bookies will pay if
All he has to do is win.
That's it. They don't care.
That's it. Lou,
Here's a point real quick. This is an LA Times article. They're calling them SMAGAs, secret Make America Great Again voters. They said actually they just mentioned, the article actually mentions what we just talked about. Comey, people that are supposedly shy. And they said and they actually come down to an average of final national polls indicated Clinton victory 3.3. She won by 2.1, well within margin of error. They called 47 out of 50 states correctly, and they weren't off that much in the ones they got wrong, meaning Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and
Michigan.
One thing they do mention here is if there was a lot of those, like we talked about, that are not given the right information, they said, because don't forget you have what they call machine polling, which I've done through the internet, and phone polling. They said those results are identical both ways. So they're ruling out the factor that there is. And I tend to agree with Frank. I mean, think about any MAGA you know any of them that keep their mouth shut?
No.
I mean, truthfully.
No.
They're wrong till they die.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It could hit them right in the nose and they'll deny it.
Yeah. COVID's a great example, right?
I have a great uncle. He was bitching to my dad last night. He's actually my father's uncle. He's only 2 years older than my father, but he won't let his son-in-law or daughter come to his house because they're MAGAs and say masks are no good. It's just a joke. And his son-in-law is going to be at the Trump rally in Johnstown tomorrow. He follows him around. He said, if you're wearing a mask and you're going to Trump rallies, do not come over. I will lock the door.
God bless him. You got to take matters into your own hands. You got to be safe, especially at that age.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just don't see any people denying they back Trump. Sorry. But I can see the wives, like Patsy said, denying they back Biden. And they're going to, when they fill that circle in North Beaver Township, come election.
Well, look, that being granted, there aren't going to be too many. I mean, out here, no, it's all Trump country, right? Male and female. However,
some of the younger ones,
right? Some of the younger ones. Here's the two things I'll say about that argument, Mike. And you guys, we've said this before, so number one, no one can deny that while Clinton may have been the better choice, she was without a doubt the worst candidate. Okay, she was a very, very poor candidate. She didn't really give you a reason to vote for her. Okay, she gave you a reason to not vote for Trump, but she didn't do anything for people who may have been on the fence, who weren't sure which way to go, she didn't do anything for them, right? She didn't give you, to sound stupid, she didn't give you the warm and fuzzies, right? She was very cold. She had a tendency to keep people at a distance. She wasn't very inviting. Even whenever she was talking to people during like town hall things, she never really made you feel, like she cared about you, she was part of you. I mean, you look at, and I always make that argument. Look at how John McCain, whenever he was doing that town hall, whenever he was running against Obama, and that woman called said Obama, what do you say, is or not Muslim? He's Kenyan and this, that, the other thing. And do you remember not what McCain answered her, but how he answered her, right? That tone that he had with her when he answered her.
Yeah.
You never, ever, ever got anything close to that from Hillary Clinton, right? Never got anything close to that from her. And I think that was a big problem. Because, like I said, even though she may have been the more qualified, I mean, she was Secretary of State, for fuck's sake. She was a senator. She's more qualified than a talk show host, right?
Yeah, we see that now. A lot of people see that now.
But whenever you're given this and you're talking to this person and you're trying to interact with this person and you're not getting something personable back, and you're seeing that that person making or having that conversation isn't getting anything personal back, it's very, very difficult to pick them if you're a little shaky about your choice.
Here's breaking news right now. Let me throw this one at you.
Sorry, Frank.
While
No, that's okay.
Amy Coney Barrett is getting interrogated, the Supreme Court allows Trump to halt census count early.
There you go.
Okay. They allowed the administration to wind down population counting for the 2020 U.S. census earlier than originally planned, in a blow to civil rights groups concerned about an undercount, particularly of racial minorities.
Imagine that. Trump has a problem with minorities, huh? Who'd have thunk?
Yeah. So I wanted to give a source because one of our viewers is asking us whether we have sources. I'm going to continue to look for the source of the negative rating that I was talking about earlier, but I want to give you this one. This is Reuters. Reuters, which is a national news service, had a Reuters Ipsos poll. So for those guys who are asking, folks who are asking, what are some sources of negative ratings? Donald Trump's handling of the coronavirus pandemic, his net approval on that issue alone is a negative 22 percentage points. And this poll came out Thursday, October 8th. So just last Thursday. He's negative 59 and positive 37 for a negative 22 percentage points. It's the lowest dating back to March 2nd, and it's steadily declined over the last 10 days. Why do you think that is? Because the guy got COVID himself. So, here's the biggest issue facing America is the health of all of our citizens, the health and well-being of all of our citizens. And in national polling, he has a negative 22 rating on that issue alone. So he's not in a good spot. I'm not going to be in the business of responding to everything, but I will say this. The court packing issue, Obama had 100 judges that he could have appointed, but Mitch McConnell specifically blocked the appointment of any federal judge, and it was left for Trump to fill those positions. That's 100 lifetime appointments. Talk about court packing. That's court packing. So understand what you're talking about when you write stuff. You're coming to a site, you're coming to a location where people do have facts. We understand the issues. We understand what's going on. Who has packed the courts? The Republicans have packed the courts. You're going to live with 100. You're going to live with 100 federally appointed judges who never tried a case, who don't understand. They're going to impact your life. They're going to make decisions on cases that will impact your working rights, your health care rights. And you think it's funny? Well, when it comes time for those decisions that they come home roost, that the chickens come home to roost in your life, you're not going to be laughing anymore.
Do you know who one of those 100 was?
Who?
Amy Coney Barrett.
Yep.
Never tried a case.
Never tried a case. She went there for 2-3 years because that was supposed to have been, I can't remember the woman's name, an Obama appointee in Chicago. Now look where she is.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's going to sit on the Supreme Court and never tried a case.
No, well, she did try a few cases there, but I mean, she just because I was watching a little bit of it, and that senator from Hawaii, I can never pronounce her name, Harito, was kind
Okay.
of questioning her on things she had written, like she wrote a dissent on what the hell case was it way back? That she has a chance now of trying. It might have been the Affordable Care Act, actually. She's evasive answers just like the rest of them, you know. And I just, I just don't understand the mindset of Republicans. If I'm wrong, point it out to me. Are they actually greedy for other people's monies, not only theirs, like they protect each other's money? Like the welfare queens, the $164 on food stamps is going to break a billionaire. They hate other people having a chance to have health care or jobs, decent wages. It just boggles my mind. And that's where we lack in the mainstream media, those types of questions. Trickle down hasn't worked for 40 years. How come they don't ask that every day on the news?
Right.
Because it's boring.
Well, they frame things the way they want to frame them. A great example is the abortion thing. Okay, if you look at Chris Wallace, they brought this back up again with Pete Buttigieg, who answered the Chris Wallace question about abortion. He said, what do you think about, basically, he was getting at the issue of the late term abortion, the third trimester abortion. And Buttigieg says, well, if you want to ask those hypothetical questions, my answer is I trust the woman. And Chris Wallace said, it's not hypothetical. There were 6,000 women who had late-term abortions in the third trimester. And Buttigieg says, yeah, if you look at that, that represents about 1% of all the cases. About 1%. And that's what we're sitting here arguing about. And I bet you that if you talk to each of those women in those families, you're probably talking about some women who had names picked out. Some women who had rooms ready for those children, okay? And they made a decision, an unfortunate decision based upon medical care, that they had to make that late term decision. So I got to step out for a second.
We'll be here, Frank.
Yeah, and I did read what Buttigieg said, and he was exactly right. It was a decision based on medical for the baby or the mother. Because who would actually wait that long to have one? And this is where they're really throwing the shade on the evangelicals and the gullible and the uninformed.
Yep.
I mean, truthfully, what are they going to do? Force somebody to have a baby that both may die in childbirth?
Depends on who you ask, I guess, huh? Well, since we were talking about the Supreme Court pick, let's talk about the Senate here for a second, shall we? This is real clear politics. Senate election polls, okay? North Carolina Senate. Lou, I really want you to jump in whenever you get a chance and tell me your thoughts about this, about all of them, not just this one in particular. North Carolina, Tillis versus Cunningham. Cunningham is so far he's pulling +5. I love how they say spread. I love that. Like we're all gambling, like it's the Super Bowl, right? So I'm going to kind of go through these here, then just kind of stop or speak up because as I'm looking at the screen, I can't see anyhow. So just kind of yell at me. Michigan,
I'm on the phone, so I could hardly see it. So
Michigan Senate, James versus Peters. The Democrat Peters is +1. Don't forget there is a margin of error. Normally, folks, the margin of error is like 3 or 4%, so take it as you will. Minnesota Senate, Lewis versus Smith. Smith, the Democrat, is +7. Arizona Senate, McSally versus Kennedy. Kelly. The Democrat Kelly is up 2. Montana.
Whose poll is that with 2? Because didn't you just say this morning that
this is
Kelly is sending money elsewhere because the internal polling is showing like 12?
Yeah, this is the Traflar Group, which is obviously very Republican based. That's why there's an R beside its name. So it's probably some sort of Republican PAC or internal polling. Although I honestly believe internal polling is far better than what we see. Um, Montana Senate, Daines versus Bullock is a tie. North Carolina, Tillis versus Cunningham. Again, no, this is back on the 12th. This was yesterday. It was Cunningham plus 10. That was WRAL TV, which is a local TV station, had Cunningham plus 10. Monmouth today had Cunningham plus 5. Okay. So no one knows what the hell's going on in North Carolina because that's a 10-point difference. No, it is possible the Survey USA WRAL is a very right-leaning Republican thing. However, that's still 5 points. That's tough. I mean, I don't know what to make of that. But that goes back to our argument that we had earlier, right? That you can only trust the polls that you have. Frank, I don't know if you heard what I was talking about.
I did.
Okay, yeah. So I'm strictly talking about the North Carolina.
Yep.
For today, Monmouth is showing Cunningham plus 5, but yesterday, like I said, WRAL TV, which has to be a local channel, right? Survey USA is showing Cunningham plus 10.
Yeah. So
not to sound ignorant, but what the fuck?
Yeah. Well, there's breaking news. It's been slowly trickling out, but there's probably more and more of it disseminating through North Carolina about Cunningham had admitted to a dalliance with somebody, an affair, and there's some written information about it that's been leaked, and he admitted that it was in fact written by him. And so I don't know how much that's impacting it, but it was very recent, meaning over the weekend, I believe. So it could have now started to have an impact on the polling.
Yeah. Okay, let's go down to Sunday, the Georgia Senate poll, Purdue versus Osloff. According to WSB TV, which again I'm assuming is a local channel, is showing Purdue plus 1. PPD, which is a Democratic-leaning poll, is showing Osloff plus 1. So each one is showing that they're either the Democrat or the Republican plus 1. Now, don't forget, those might be dead on because there is that 3-4% margin of error, right? So they might be right on.
Mm-hmm.
Georgia, which is a Senate special election. My God, there's everybody on the planet. I think we're the only 3 not competing in this one. The same television channel and Polar are showing Womack, or is it Warnock? Womack plus 10. PPD, which is the same one that was doing that looks like to be a Democrat-leaning poll, showing Warnock plus 17. So again, you got 7 points there. Some of these things are hard to follow. So Lou, I'm sorry, Frank. It kind of almost makes your point a little bit. I'm sorry, I got rid of you. It kind of makes your point a little bit that some of these polls, I mean, they're so wide open all over the place. It's kind of hard to you see one that seems weird, you end up questioning everything.
Well, and I will say this, I appreciate that there's the openness and willingness to debate that, because it does concern me that we got burned in 2016. But I also understand that when you kind of average these polls, you get rid of some of these extremes. You're going to have some extremes that maybe somebody used poor data collection, maybe somebody used poor, calculation, maybe somebody was not paying attention and transposed a number. I mean, it could happen. I mean, that could happen occasionally. Human error does come into play. But when you look at 20 polls or 30 polls or 10 polls in a state, or even 5 polls in a state, you start to eliminate some of that error if you're collecting data from all representative sources, like to the point where we talked about earlier. I mean, if just people don't want to participate, there's not much we can do about that. But when you do collect the data that is available, you can eliminate some of that bias by averaging it out. And I agree with that 100%. It's not the methodology of that worries me. It's the worry that maybe we are missing people. So, yeah, I think that it comes down to once bitten, twice shy for me. That really is it. I just don't want to be set up for that
Right.
punch in the jaw or punch in the gut again on November 4th. That's all.
Right. And Lou, the thing is, that's why you average the polls, right? So you get rid of a lot of that. However, whenever you see something like I just showed everybody, where they're just showing two polls, and you have that big of a discrepancy on two polls, if you got to run the kids to soccer practice, you got to get shit on the table, you got to close the wash, you got to do whatever you got to do, and that's your only source, and you're seeing 7 or 10 point differences in the same poll or the same race on the same sheet on the same web page, do you not start to question what's going on?
Well, I would doubt them all. Just how could you believe it?
And let me ask you guys this.
You don't know who they're questioning, what demographic.
Right.
If I read 2 stories today. They're anecdotal stories, of course, but 2 people in Georgia. One waited 11 hours in line. The other one waited 5 hours, 5-point-something hour line in Georgia to vote. Mm-hmm. If you're sitting at home and you see polling on, say, November 2nd that says now we're up to 15% numbers spread between Biden and Trump, positive to Biden, and you see, let's just say Nate Silver comes out and says instead of 83 to 15 or whatever the numbers are, now we're at 91 to 9.
I know exactly where you're going with this.
Yeah, somebody calls you and says, "Hey, I'm in the line to get to vote today. They're telling me it's going to take 6 hours, and it's raining and it's cold. Do you go stand in line if you're a Biden supporter and you say it's 91 to 9 chance we're winning?"
It's the Hillary Clinton thing in the Philadelphia districts all over again, right? Yeah, I know.
That scares me a little.
Oh, rightfully so. Rightfully so.
So I have one last thing. The data about the favorable versus unfavorable spread. Averaging polls, I'm going to tell you which ones they are. Fox News, top of the list. YouGov, Reuters, CNBC, Politico, CNN, NBC/Wall Street Journal, New York Times/Siena, Harris, and Emerson. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 polls. This is the favorable versus unfavorable spread for Trump. Remember what I said, Fox News at the top. Every other one of them I'm not going to read. Fox News, 44 favorable, 55 unfavorable for an negative 11% spread on Fox News.
Right.
Well, guess what? When you average all the polls, it's 11.3%. So that's the source, my man. Whoever's asking, I thank you for your question. I'm glad we can provide you the information. RCP average of those 10 sites gives you a negative rating of 11.3 for Trump. Biden has a positive somewhere around 5%. That spells trouble because back in the 2016 election, Clinton was 12.3 or 12.1 negative. Trump was a negative, but wasn't as high as that he is now. When you have 2 candidates who have negative, one of them's got to win. When you have one candidate that big of a negative, the other one positive, that's trouble.
And don't forget, too, whenever you're talking about the polling, that 50% mark, I cannot tell you how important that 50% mark is. It's frightening. It's frighteningly important. Frank, I think I called it in our Discord group, I called it like the event horizon, right?
Yeah.
Once you hit that event horizon, there's no coming back from the black hole. That's pretty much what you see whenever you get polling at 50%.
Yeah.
Right?
There's a lot less undecided now than there was 4 years ago also. That's why you're saying that.
And I don't believe that as many of these people who are saying are undecided are actually undecided. No, there's never it's a bold statement. But I would be hard pressed, or anybody would be hard pressed to find an election that is this divided. Right? I mean, maybe there was back in 1600 whatever, but we're polarized like a fucking champ. I cannot believe that there are that many people undecided. They're either lying or they're looking for their 15 minutes. I honestly believe that. Well, hell, we're running out of time. one thing we wanted to talk about, we've talked about it earlier. We nailed it on the head. No, it's not Doc Ellis there, Lou. But I tell you, that was a hell of an effort, right? It was a hell of an effort. Folks, this is huge. It's and I got a story to tell everybody about this, but I'm gonna throw it up there. According to sources, I'm sorry, guys, I said Atlanta United. I apologize. Actually, no one else do that, just you two, but that's okay. Sources, ex-U.S., that is United States women's national team boss, which would have meant the manager for the last, not one, but 2 World Cups, both World Cups that they won, by the way. Manager Jill Ellis on the DC United coaching candidate list. In our Discord group, I kind of blew it off and said, normally, national team managers make very poor club managers. However, my son, who cannot stand Jill Ellis, said, "Idiot! She was a club manager before she was the national team manager." And I said, "Oh well, hell, that's even better now." But I wanted to get your opinion on this. Good move, bad move. Is it a PR thing? Do you think there's legitimacy to it? Lou, I'll start with you. What do you think?
Well, since I don't know a damn thing about it, I'm going to pass.
Okay, well, that's easy. Frank?
Yeah, but I gotta believe that DC United is serious in their evaluation. DC United is they're building a, I don't know if they completed it or not, but they're building, or maybe it is completed, a new facility for their soccer club. It's a serious soccer club at a major league level, the MLS, which we know is not the best league in the world. We understand that, but it's a league that's putting money into their own process. And let's face it, the folks from the United States are making a bigger impact around the world right now. We see how many club signings in big European teams from young kids here, and also the women are going over to play in like the Premier League sides that were coached by Jill Ellis. I think even if there's a piece of this that is PR, it's still tied to the soccer side of things. It's still tied to the operations side of things. I don't believe that DC United would seriously consider putting somebody's name out there if they didn't think that the person could be someone who could handle the job. She can manage it, and I think they know that. She can manage the X's and O's. She can manage the personnel. She can manage running a big-time team. Obviously, there's no bigger spotlight than the World Cup and the Olympics, which she's been involved in both those things.
Won them.
Yeah. So I don't believe it's purely PR. I wouldn't doubt that there's a little element of that, but I think that this is something where they're saying we're serious about evaluating her for this position.
I continuously make the argument. Well, I make 2 arguments. First argument is, if anybody's going to do something like this, where you're going to have, that glass ceiling broken in a sport, it's probably going to be MLS, right? They seem to be more open to things like this. Maybe the NBA as well, right? Maybe. But the other thing I'll say is, she is the only person since the 1920s who won consecutive World Cups, right? Men's side, an Italian coach for the men's side was the other one, like 1927. I think he won the second World Cup. So don't think for a second that she doesn't know how to manage. Okay? My son argues that, well, they won 2 World Cups in spite of her, because he's not a big fan of Jill Ellis. But you look at the characters that she's had on that side, okay? You look at the names that are on that side. I mean, she had a goaltender who lost her job because she got all hopped up and drunk off her ass, and her husband stole a van. So, it was a great story. We got to read up on why Hope Solo lost her job on the national team. Oh, and she was married to a pitcher for the Cleveland Browns, and she ended up beating the hell out of him and getting arrested.
I remember that.
Yeah, you
I
remember?
that.
Okay. So she knows how to handle personality. She knows how to handle character. She knows how to put a winning side out on the pitch. She knows how to manage on the fly, because let's face it, both that England game and the France game in the World Cup, trust me when I tell you, neither of those went according to plan. And she's going to a side, or maybe going to a side, that signed Wayne Rooney from Everton, right? So you got a serious side. You got to play a manager that knows the game. I don't know how much PR is actually in this, Frank. To be honest with you, I think they're being damn serious, or at least taking her seriously.
I agree. I mean, look, I've had the good fortune of living in that region for, off and on, I guess, splitting time between the three of our, hometown area and that area for about 8 years now, since 2012. And if you go to an MLS game in DC on a Sunday, it's an event. It's really an event. They have one of the best tailgates I've ever seen. And I think you pay $20, and it's like whoever comes, you get to enjoy premium beer, grilled food, and I'm talking good grilled food. It's like the biggest potluck you've ever seen. Okay.
Right.
And yeah, it's awesome. I mean, and that's because the culture around that club is a good culture. They don't need to do something like that for PR. They're building a nice stadium. I think they're serious. I do.
It's a serious side to begin with. This isn't. They're not doing this because they need PR. They need print or anything like that. I mean, it's DC United. I mean, they don't need it. To be honest, I'm kind of hoping that she gets the job.
It would be fun.
I mean, depending on who she's competing against. I didn't see the other names, but man, it'd be. Yeah, and let's face it, Frank, we'd be going.
Think about this. Tell me what you think about the seriousness that she would infuse into that side in terms of club culture and winning culture. That kind of, what do you think?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and there's with the only exception, like I said, of maybe not having a whole lot of club managerial experience. I don't see a big downside to somebody who's won back-to-back World Cups and an Olympic in between.
Yeah,
I don't see too much wrong with that.
No.
We'll even drag Lou with us. We'll get him to a game.
Yeah, he'd love it. I think once he got one of those things. Once you get there and you start to experience it, it's hard to it's
awesome.
Hard to give up on. Yeah,
it is. It's a good time. Great atmosphere. You actually get into the game and watch the game, and you watch it live, and that's when you really understand the game. It's kind of like hockey, Lou. You got to be there to understand it.
Probably.
Yeah, you do. Because whenever you're just following the puck, you don't really see the game, right? Whenever you see that whole ice out in front of you, and you can see how everything's moving, it all kind of makes sense. Soccer's the same way. You really have to see the whole thing to really get it. And then it'll take you almost the whole game to figure out the offside call. But that's okay. Just imagine a moving blue line in your set.
Yeah, see, that's what throws me.
The blue line moves where the back line of the defense is. It's easy to figure out.
Doesn't sound fair to me.
It's not. All right, guys, let's call it. Lou, anything before we call it a day?
No, not really. Nothing exciting.
No? You on with us tomorrow? Or you going to smack your balls around?
I may be home, might not.
Okay.
Don't know yet. If not, if I may show up. Hard to say.
We'll play it by ear. Frank, anything before we go?
I'm excited by people posing questions and following us and talking to us on this format. It's what we had hoped for. The engagement of conversation. I like that we carried our own personal kind of debate from this weekend into today's show. I think these are the kind of things that are really why we started the pod, is to keep these kind of conversations to be unfiltered in a way. You're not going to get this from the nightly news. to try to look at all different angles that we can look at and take every perspective. So I'm just excited about the show. I'm excited about continuing on, and looking forward to tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So everybody who was in our chat, one of our Bob Lust, one of our regulars over on Twitch, and Richard on Periscope. Thank you both very much for your thoughts, and everybody else who got in and was participating. We thank you guys so much for. You really have no idea how much it means to us. Please, don't be a stranger. So until tomorrow, folks. Same bad time, same bad channel. And you know what I'm going to say, right? Until tomorrow, goodbye, good luck, and God bless. We'll see everybody tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Good night, Mom.